Pathmonk is the intelligent tool for website lead generation. With increasing online competition, over 98% of website visitors don't convert. The ability to successfully show your value proposition and support visitors in their buying journey separates you from the competition online. Pathmonk qualifies and converts leads on your website by figuring out where they are in the buying journey and influencing them in key decision moments with relevant micro experiences like case studies, intro videos, and much more. Stay relevant to your visitors and increase conversions by 50%. Add Pathmonk to your website in seconds. Let the AI do all the work and get access to 50% more qualified leads while you keep doing marketing and sales as usual. Check us on pathmonk.com. Welcome to today's episode. Let's talk about today's guest. We have Jordan from Helium SEO, digital marketing consultant now with them. How you doing today, Jordan?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on the show, Ernesto. Appreciate it.
Nah, it's great to have you on. And I'm sure our listeners are tuning in, wondering what Helium SEO is all about. So let's kick it off with that, Jordan. In your own words, can you tell us a little bit more?
Yeah, in my own words, I'd say Helium SEO is about problem solving. We're a bit unique in that we're not structured like a typical agency, and that we're more of a tech-enabled service structure. We have a full team of engineers, we have a full team of consultants, and we'll kind of solve unique problems with the use of technology. Technology is a fantastic force multiplier. That's why we use a lot of current AI, machine learning that's coming out to solve really unique problems so across a lot of different industries. But in my own words, Helium SEO is a marketing agency, but we're a like-minded group of problem solvers.
Right. Awesome to hear that from you guys. So that way our listeners can get a good understanding of Helium SEO. What problems then would you solve for clients?
Yeah. So right now we're solving the problem with AI. Oftentimes there's so many different tools out there, especially with generative AI talking about, Jasper, Writer, OpenAI, Bard. You have all of these language models popping out, but I don't always know that they're being used responsibly in the sense of just more. That isn't always the answer. And so we're using AI to provide a more sophisticated approach to content strategies on maybe you don't need thousands of articles. Maybe you only need a couple dozen, but if they're appropriately placed and restructured, then we can manage things that way. So it's a lot more about using AI in a more sophisticated way rather than just dumping more of whatever it might be.
All right. Awesome. And so then who would be your ideal clients? Is there a vertical segment? Is there an ICP for you guys?
Yeah, that's a great question. Oddly enough, we found tremendous amount of success with, let's say, industrial services and home services, things like manufacturing, warehousing, or even like HVAC. A lot of things that you would expect from industry-based areas like Cincinnati, where we're headquartered out of. But we've also found a lot of success in, say, typically really difficult areas for agencies, especially within organic or paid services, like SaaS or healthcare. And so those have been areas that we've tended to focus on a little bit more than where I kind of find myself more working with the healthcare and the SaaS companies.
All right. Awesome. Great. And so then how would these SaaS companies typically find out about you guys? Is there a top client acquisition channel that you guys have?
Yeah. So we are very active on the sales front. Our website tends to function more as a verifier for, are these people trustworthy? Can they produce the results that they're sharing? The answer to that is always, well, yes, and we'd be happy to do it for you. But typically new clients come through outbound sales. We're reaching out, we're calling people. And the reason for that is we found that going through that sales conversation allows us to solve those unique problems. Oftentimes with typical marketing, if you're just throwing a case study on it, it doesn't necessarily speak to a high level of specificity to what a large client might be trying to solve. And that sales conversation allows us to craft and develop a scope of work that is very specific and very actionable to their needs. So the vast majority of what we do is in outbound sales in terms of client acquisition.
All right, perfect. Awesome to hear that from you guys. And so that way our listeners can check you guys out. You can check them out at helium-seo.com. What role does a website play for client acquisition?
For us, it's very much in that verification stage. So we use our website as I'll say a bit of a litmus test for clients to look at to see those case studies that we would start with, or seeing the white paper, seeing the ebooks, and demonstrating that, yeah, we are industry leaders for, we'll say, responsible use of AI and how it's being applied to specific problems, and making that connection between the tech-enabled service and how we're differently structured and focused on the problem solving. So all of those individual items that Helium does different than everybody else, and the results that it has, those are all just going to be housed on the website for people to verify and build that trust that what we say is exactly what we can fulfill on.
All right, awesome to hear that. And so, I mean, you being in the marketing world, is there any tools or tips or methods that you would recommend our listeners as far as some lead generation from the website?
Man, that's a great question. And I'm going to step back from kind of, let's say, like the marketing aspect, and brag a bit on similar tools like Pathmonk. I'm a huge fan of anything that is cookieless and that is really supportive of protection of user data or any sort of personal information. So I would step back and just say, as a general approach, anything that isn't tracking personal data. I think we as marketers have gotten a bit gluttonous on data collection, and oftentimes, if we don't know why we're tracking what we're tracking, we really don't have a plan that is working behind the scenes for actual acquisition or following up with clients. And so I would say, yeah, anything that protects user data.
All right, awesome. Great to hear that from you guys. But let's switch it up gears. Let's switch gears a little bit here, Jordan, and let's talk about you as a leader there for Helium SEO. What are some key tasks you focus on your day-to-day work?
I'm on a lot of calls. I have a lot of conversations. I'd say that's the vast majority of my day. It used to be something that kind of created friction for me. Like, man, you're just on calls all day. But that's how things get done. And so I'd say the vast majority of my day is focused on communication, whether it be internally with the teams that I'm working with at Helium, or externally and working with my clients. So that's the vast majority of my day. Other items would be working with and testing out some of those AI products of, like, hey, we got a new language model. What's the appropriate application? Or a good example would be, how's Google's antitrust lawsuit? What information is being given there? What can we extract from that, and how can we apply that to some of our strategies? Things like that. Some of the higher level, I call kind of top of mountain, see what runs down information. But for the most part, it's a lot of emails and it's a lot of conversations.
Definitely, that's important, right? Getting in contact with people. So definitely kudos to you for that. And well, let's jump into our next section here, Jordan, which is our rapid fire question round. You ready for them?
Let's rock.
All right. First off, what is the last book that you read?
I'm actually looking at it right here. I'm in seminary right now, so my last book was actually a textbook, beginner Greek. So that would be the last one, but probably more marketing focus was, it was produced by OneTrust. That was a privacy-minded agency.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Great to read that from you. Now, next up is, what is one single thing that your company is focused on at the moment the most?
Another great question. I would say specifically applying action to goals. What I mean by that is, every client, we have a North Star. Like, if we could accomplish one thing over the next year, what is that? And I would say being diligent and almost to a tedious extent of applying every action. How does it build back to the North Star? How does it build back to the North Star? And so that would be I'd say a current initiative that we have.
Okay, awesome. Great to hear that. Next is, if there would be no boundaries in technology, what would be that one thing that you want to have fixed for your role as a marketer today?
Knowing the limits of technology. I think oftentimes we try to apply technology where it may not belong. So if technology could help us limit where to apply it, I think that's what I'd be interested in a answer of irony.
All right, awesome. Great. Thank you so much. And well, lastly, Jordan, you do have a lot of experience. Checked you out. So what is one piece of advice that you would give yourself if you were to restart your journey as a marketer today?
And another great question. Probably say solve one problem at a time. Oftentimes there's so much being thrown at us as marketers for, hey, who are you following on X or LinkedIn or whatever digital marketing journal that you want to follow. And it's impossible to keep up with that. And so I would say solve one problem, pick it and solve it, and make sure you document. Marketers are not great for documentation, that's for sure. But if every agency had a knowledge base, I think every client would be a little bit happier. But I would say solve one problem at a time and don't try to do 5 at once.
I think that's some great advice there, right? I think when you try to do 2 or 3 or 4 things, you stop doing the first one and it just starts getting hectic. So definitely some great advice there from you, Jordan. Thanks so much for that. And well, Jordan, do want to thank you for being on the show with us today. But I do want to give you the last word before we go. If someone forgets everything about the interview today, what is that one thing they should remember about Helium SEO?
We solve problems and we use technology to do it.
Perfect. There you guys go. You guys could visit them at Helium-SEO, AI-driven SEO, and PPC. Jordan, thank you so much for being on with us today. To our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in and looking forward to our next episode at Pathmonk Presents. Thanks a lot, Jordan.
Sure thing. Thanks, Ernesto.